Good morning. It is November the 6th, and I am doing the Dripping Springs Trail in the Organ Mountains by Las Cruces, New Mexico. So it's a very popular trail, so it's got to be good if it's popular, right? It's a very well-defined trail so far. Hiking on gravel isn't the best, but anyways, the surroundings are spectacular. These mountains are so rugged. This trail has a lot of history to it, I guess, this area. So there's the first relic. A nice shade area by a tree of sit and bench. Nice. Oh, you got lots of options here. This area behind this sign provides habitat for endangered plant and animal species. This habitat and the historic ruins in the area are extremely fragile. Okay. It's been a steady climb, not strenuous though, thankfully. As you may recall from our previous hikes, David was in exile in Philistine country hiding from Saul, and he had to fight to get his 2 wives back who were captured by the Amalekites. So while that was going on, the Philistines had invaded Israel, and King Saul and 3 of his sons were killed. But David didn't know about it until the 3rd day, when a young man came from Saul's camp with clothes torn and dust on his head, which were external signs of mourning in Bible times. He fell to the ground in front of David, and so David, of course, wanted to know where he came from. I have escaped from the camp of Israel. Then David wanted to know how the battle went. Well, the people fled, and many died, including Saul and his son Jonathan. David said, "How do you know they are dead?" The young man said, "Well, I happened by chance to be on Mount Gilboa, and there was Saul leaning on his spear, and the chariots and horsemen were following hard after him. He saw me and called to me and asked me who I was, and so I told him I was an Amalekite. And then he asked me to kill him, for anguish has come upon me, but my life still remains within me. So I stood over him and killed him like he asked. Then I took the crown that was upon his head and the bracelet that was on his arm and brought them to you, David." Dripping Springs Boyd Sanatorium, Van Patten Mountain Camp. Cool. These outbuildings, including the livery, chicken coop, and mercantile, are the first signs that you are close to Eugene Van Patten's mountain camp. Only a quarter-mile left to go. Guests arrived at Van Patten's on stagecoach and horses. The stagecoach drivers would place the wagons inside a long barn next to the corral. Up at the camp's dining room, guests would enjoy a wonderful meal, including seasonal fruits and vegetables, beef, milk from the dairy cow, and fresh eggs from the chickens raised here. Once automobiles became available, you would also be able to see them here. Wow, they provide a picnic table for you up here. All right, let's go see this mountain camp first. This is pretty special in here, and more better of a trail that I like, rather than a gravel road. Oh, ay, ay, ay. I tell you, I'm the clumsiest person. You certainly get reprieve from the heat in here. Oh, this is just really cool. This is so special. Wow. That took a lot of work. In this canyon, you can hear the echoes of other visitors or water dripping down the reservoir. However, in the late 1800s to early 1900s, you could hear the merriment of those who came to Van Patten's mountain camp. At its peak, the resort had 32 guest rooms with murals, and the dining room featured a full-size piano. Muslin cloth covered the ceilings. There was an outdoor garden and gazebo for entertainment. It attracted the social elite and was popular among students from New Mexico College of Agriculture and Mechanic Arts, now New Mexico State University, for picnicking, exploring, and relaxation. Eugene Van Patten was an important figure in the Southwest. He was a Butterfield Trail stage line driver, Confederate Army officer, and county sheriff, among many other professions. He once owned most of the land that is now Las Cruces. He was married to Benita Madrid Vargas, the daughter of a Puro Indian cacique, tribal leader. She died before the mountain camp was built. However, many of her tribesmen, as well as people from the Tiwa Tigwa Manso tribes, worked at the resort. Out to the old Van Pattens, with apologies to James Whitcomb Riley. Wasn't it bully, O comrade mine, in those old days of the bright sunshine, of school days when exams were through, and we were hoping we'd pass them too, and we went picnicking, me and you, out to old Van Patten's. It all comes back so clear today, though we haven't met since we went away. Down at the station I got the rig, I never told what I had to dig, and stopped at the dorm at 7 o'clock, and we steered our course for the Suavik Rock, out to old Van Patten's. Oh, I made steps steep back then. Well, sadly, the dripping springs seem to be all dried up, but I really did enjoy this history. Very cool. Tucked away back by these mountains. Wow. Well, what's this? I seem to have found something else. So we better go up here. Never mind, I found the dripping springs, but we're not allowed to go near them, so that's the extent. Oh, they come from up there. Interesting. That is precious to have water in the desert, in the mountains. Well, we might as well go up to Boyd Sanatorium. Dr. Nathan E. Boyd, a physician and businessman, agreed to pay Eugene Van Patten $25 per year, where he was at liberty to occupy, use, and utilize for the purposes of your camp so much of the said canyon, in part to attract health seekers. However, Boyd later refused to pay Van Patten rent and other costs, so Van Patten sued. The dispute deepened when it was discovered that Van Patten's homestead patent had the wrong property description, and Boyd had submitted an application to homestead Dripping Springs instead. Van Patten managed to fix his patent and win all his court cases against Boyd, yet Boyd refused to budge, and after 13 years of court battles, Van Patten went bankrupt. He ended up selling Dripping Springs to Boyd for $1. The building in front of us serves as a kitchen and dining hall. Dr. Boyd and his family lived in a house behind this building. The guests stayed in cottages and tents. Yeah, the healing hiker gives this Dripping Springs excursion a 4 out of 5. Docked it only because having to walk on gravel and the people factor. Quite a few people. Not obnoxious, but still. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Well, back to the Bible story now. This report that the young Amalekite gave seems to have contradicted the story that I told in my last hike, in which Saul had committed suicide. It may be that the Amalekite is lying to get a favor from David. This young man claims to have killed Saul after seeing that he was close to death after falling on his sword. Isn't it interesting that Saul, who had failed to kill all the Amalekites, especially their king, is now killed by an Amalekite? This young man went to the battlefield to rob the fallen soldiers. Oh yeah, he wants to come out on the path. You guys are my heroes. Thank you. Whoa, that was crazy. So grateful for those people. They made sure that I saw him. They weren't going to let me go on by without showing me where that snake was. So, aw, there are angels out here. And it's crazy because there's been quite a few people hiking this trail. So, of course, I'm the one that gets to see a snake. Thanks to those people. At any rate, David believes this man who is presenting Saul's crown and bracelet as evidence, and he tore his clothes, as did all the men that were with him. Then they mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and Jonathan. Then David asked the young man, "How was it that you were not afraid to destroy the Lord's anointed?" Then David called one of his men and said, "Go near and execute him." And that's exactly what happened. The Amalekite expects to be rewarded for killing David's enemy, but David puts him to death instead. David has twice had the opportunity to take the life of Saul, but he refused to lift up his hand against the Lord's anointed. He regarded the act of murdering a king as a base crime against the nation as well as God. For a foreigner to slay the king whom God had appointed and who had been anointed with the holy oil, he considered a heinous offense to be expiated only by death. So the moral of this story, be careful what you brag about and the lies you tell. It could mean death. Then David writes a lamentation. It is profoundly personal because it does not have religious or national elements. It does not mention the name of God or Israel's defeat. The beauty of Israel is slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew nor rain upon you, nor fields of offerings. For the shield of the mighty is cast away there, the shield of Saul, not anointed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan did not turn back, and the sword of Saul did not return empty. Saul and Jonathan were beloved and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. O daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet with luxury, who put ornaments of gold on your apparel. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Jonathan was slain in your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was wonderful, surpassing the love of women. How the mighty have fallen, and the weapons of war perished. By this touching expression, David showed the sincerity and depth of Jonathan's love. Jonathan suffered the loss of crown and kingdom because of his love for David. True love consists of thinking of others, caring for others, and doing for others. To Jonathan, the friendship of David meant more than fame or fortune. Just like Jesus desires friendship with us and loves us so much, that he gave up his crown and became human so that he could save us. He doesn't want us to die, but to come to him to be saved.